Hello my crafty friends and welcome back. It's time for another Mixed Media Tuesday, and today I decided to create my backgrounds using my alcohol inks. So I do have some Yupo paper here, and you can definitely use vellum instead of that. I did share that in a previous video. I do have a bottle with isopropyl alcohol that helps the ink to move around. And then I'm going to need something to blow the ink away. For this purpose I'm using this tool, which is actually for a marker, but it doesn't matter, the pump works just fine. But you can definitely use a straw and just blow away the ink. Playing with your alcohol inks can be quite messy, so whenever I create backgrounds I go ahead and make lots of them. You can either use them as a background on a card or for your art journals. And the truth is that we rarely grab our alcohol inks when we want to work on an art journal, since we are working on paper, which is really absorbent and you cannot move ink around, plus it bleeds. But don't forget, you can always work on a separate piece and then stick it on top of your page. So this way you can have fun with your alcohol inks and actually use them on your journal. So for this first example, I did use isopropyl alcohol in the beginning to help the ink move around, but again remember I'm working on Yupo, so you will see in the next examples I won't even use that. You can easily move the ink around before it dries. Notice that for these backgrounds I don't go crazy with the colors and I don't cover up the whole background. When I work with alcohol inks I have found that it is more pleasing, to my eyes at least, to use just two colors, and usually colors that are next to the color wheel. This way I know that I'm going to end up with a pleasing result, at least in terms of color combination, and I'm not overthinking what the ink is doing on the paper. It is a completely random process, you cannot control the ink, plus it bleeds out and looks completely different when it dries. So today I'm going to create a bunch of backgrounds and then I'm going to show you how I turn them into pages just by using ready-made ephemera that I have in my stash. I'm not going to share the colors that I'm using for each one of them, I was just randomly picking colors from my stash, but remember I either go with the same color in a different shade or with colors that are next to each other on a color wheel. Now this may be out of your comfort zone, it is completely random, you cannot control what's going on the paper, and 95% of the time you will not like the outcome. That's definitely my case, I don't like what you see in the screen right now. However, once we do all the techniques that we do on top of a background, you will find that the background doesn't really matter. It is there just to add an extra pop of color and to help your focal points stand out even more. So I'm not going to bore you with even more background creations. I'm going to stop here, and these are the 4 ones that I picked to use as a background. So first of all we are going to do some stamping with alcohol lift ink. This is a fun technique that lifts color from the background, and I'm going to use those background stamps by AALL Create. They have a wide collection with wonderful background stamps. One thing that you need to keep in mind when you stamp with alcohol lift ink is that it is quite sticky as you try to pull it off from the Yupo paper. So just make sure that you know that and you will have no problem at all. If it slides on top of your paper, it's not a big deal. This is a background after all and we don't need to have anything perfect. Plus you can always go ahead and use a misty if you want to. Now what that stamping did was to lift color from the center, and now I do have some color on my stamp so that I can do some stamping all around on the white areas. Let that react with the background for a while, and in the meantime clean up your stamp before you go ahead and use it on your ink pad. Then with a paper towel or a microfiber cloth, just go over the ink, rub it off, and you will see the design of the stamp appears on top of your background. It is a really fun technique, I absolutely love the results. And I'm going to repeat it on all the backgrounds. Every time I'm going to play with another background stamp just to give them some love. So the first stamp that I used was called 1, 2, 3s. The one that I'm using here with lots of text is called Script Thoughts. And again, I'm stamping, lifting, and now my stamp has a little bit of ink. so I'm going to stamp it off on some white areas. Then let that dry for a while and then wipe it off with your towel. And I repeat the same process for the other backgrounds. So here I'm using the ABCs stamp set. And for the fourth and last one, I went with the scripted semicircles background stamp. And here is a close-up look on how those four backgrounds look at the moment after the lift ink technique. And now on each and every one of them I'm going to do some stamping with black archival ink, using every time the same stamp that I used for the background. Again, I'm not going for the perfect impression, I'm just stamping with my stamp in different areas, adding a little bit of black back there. And just like always, since I'm not going for the perfect impression, I rather want to have a more organic and random look, I'm not using a stamping block and I'm doing the stamping with my fingers. So up to now I have no plan, I'm just having fun with my mediums, creating backgrounds. And of course this is the beauty of the process, just have fun, create a bunch of backgrounds, and I'm going to show you now how easy it is to turn those backgrounds into fun art journal pages. Oh, by the way, before I start turning them into pages, there is one more thing that I forgot to do, and that's adding white splashes. So here I'm using white paint in a liquid form, this is by Liquitex, and I'm just adding some splashes all over the place. Now to turn them into pages, you just need a focal point. For today I'm playing with focal points by Art by Marlene. This is the Golden Oldie, a huge book full of images in the colorful style by Art by Marlene. So I'm going to choose a few to play with and then simply stick it on top of my art journal. I'm using glue at the back, and notice that I used the fish on top of the blue background because first of all it reminds me of the sea, and the second reason is that the color combination of the fish really stands out against blue. I wouldn't stick a blue fish on top of a blue background. I'm sticking down my quote. I'm going to use my white gel pen and my black pen now. The black pen to outline the quote, and then with my white gel pen I'm going to add some highlights on my cutout. And you can see here I'm even drawing some bubbles coming out from the fish. You will see close-up photos at the end of the video on every page that I'm making, so let's move on to the second one. Here I decided to use a piece of washi tape so that I can kind of ground my flamingo, so I'm going to stick it down first, and again notice how I chose the background that really helps that flamingo to stand out. And here is one thing that you can do. You can use your black marker and go around the die cut if you like, always with sketchy lines. I'm not going for perfection, and then with my white gel pen I'm going to add some highlights. When you are working with animals or faces, it really makes a huge difference when you add a white highlight on their eyes. It kind of brings them to life. So again, I'm browsing through my ready-made quotes. I'm going to pick one and stick it down on my page. By the way, since I'm working on such a small size, you can definitely turn these designs into cards if you like. However, I'm just going to stick them inside my art journal. Now for the third page I decided to go with one of the girls. I love that she is wearing a blue dress, so it really stands out against the background. And then I'm going to embellish her with a bunch of flowers that I have popped out from the same book. Everything is from the same book, and by the way, just like always, you will find links to everything I used down below. So this time I am going to use flowers at the bottom of her. And once everything is down, all I need to do is to finish it off. I usually do that with my black pen and my white gel pen. And here is your reminder, if you do enjoy my videos, don't forget to click the like button as well as leave me a comment. I make sure to read all the comments and try to reply to any questions. So again, for this one I'm going to use one of my sticker quotes, and you can see how easy it is to put those pages together once you have all those wonderful backgrounds. Also remember, you can get similar results for the backgrounds if you do watercolor washes. Just remember that they are not going to be as vibrant as when you are working with alcohol ink on top of Yupo paper, which is really white and bright. Now for this one, as you can see, I'm trying to mimic the design that is all around the girl. just so that I can bring everything together, and I'm doing that with my black brush marker. Now for her I went with the sticker that says Shine, and now I'm looking for a colorful star to finish it off. I'm sure there is a star here, there are tons of images, you will find anything really. And then I need to add my finishing touches, my white highlights. Now here, instead of using my regular white gel pen, which is very thin, I'm using a paint marker to add thicker highlights, as well as my thin marker for the thinner ones. And finally, I will go over the die cut with my black marker. And now it's time to place them inside my book. I chose to go with black pages as the background, and I'm going to stick each and every one of them by just using white glue at the back. So here are my first 2 pages with the girl and the flamingo, and then let's stick at the back the fish and the other girl. So these were the 4 pages that I shared for today. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired to create some abstract, vibrant backgrounds. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll see you all next time.